This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth with breaking news. Thousands of people are wounded when Hezbollah's new pagers simultaneously explode across Lebanon, killing 8 and sparking mass panic with sources blaming Israel. Now, for some of my younger viewers who may not know what a pager is, this is technology that was popular 30 years ago, where you could message somebody, they would have this pager in their pocket, it would vibrate or beep, we sometimes call them beepers, and then you would be notified that you have to go and call this person. Now, these were what were used, these are the things that exploded, and there's various reports saying things like thousands of Hezbollah fighters injured in a massive cyber attack, with the Iranian ambassador among some of the victims. But this point right here, the massive cyber attack, is highly contentious, very debated right now, because you got others saying stuff like this. Israel assassinated Hezbollah's chief of staff smack in the middle of Beirut. So Hezbollah realized it could no longer use cell phones, and they switched to pagers. The only problem? They were unknowingly buying explosive pagers from the Mossad. So is this a case of a massive cyber attack, or are these explosives that were, implanted beforehand? Hezbollah doesn't know. They have no idea what just hit them. And in fact, nobody really does at this point. As this article points out, hack attack, beep, beep, boom, 8 dead as Hezbollah terrorist and Iran envoy among thousands hurt after booby-trapped pagers explode in Israel attack. Now, the reason why Israel attack is in brackets is because that's currently unknown at this point, where this is coming from. It's a pretty good educated guess, but it's technically not proven. Same with this idea that they were booby-trapped pagers. The article it goes on to say it right here. It is not clear what caused the pagers to blow, with some experts saying explosives were inside them, and others are saying malware could have caused the batteries to overheat and then erupt. The Wall Street Journal, citing sources, reports that the targeted communications devices in Lebanon were part of a new shipment recently received by Hezbollah. So this would add credibility to the idea that it was, something like C4 planted in these devices and then given to them in this new shipment. But this begs the major question: how could Israel have triggered these Hezbollah pager explosions? Well, either we know it was remotely detonated, and it was clearly either something being planted inside of these devices beforehand, or there was some sort of malware, there was some sort of a hack, and they were actually able to send out this signal to all these particular devices to have them explode. This is still not yet known, and this is exactly what we're going to look into today. In fact, I posted this on Twitter yesterday. Earlier today, I should say. Makes one wonder, could something like this ever be in your pocket? Well, folks, we're going to look at all of that and much, much more in this video. But really quickly, guys, before we do, I'd ask that you check me out here at subscribestar.com/pressfortruth. Here you could sign up for a monthly reoccurring contribution. You can do $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever is within your means, guys, is very greatly appreciated. I cannot continue to do this work without the support that comes directly from you, the viewers, and this is one of the best ways that you can support Press for Truth, is by joining me at Subscribestar. You can check that top link in the description below on whatever video platform you happen to be watching this on today. All right, let's jump into this, guys. How could Israel have triggered Hezbollah pager explosions? Pagers used for communication between Hezbollah fighters reportedly exploded this afternoon, injuring hundreds, according to Lebanese security services. Speculation has since mounted that the technology was somehow hacked or sabotaged by Israeli intelligence. One source close to Hezbollah claimed that the incident came as a direct result of an Israeli breach of its communications, though this has not been confirmed and Israel has not yet commented. A different official said, on condition of anonymity, that the cause of the explosions was likely the lithium batteries that power the pagers. So on one hand, you've got one source suggesting this is an Israeli breach of communications. That's venturing into this notion that it was malware, it was hacked, it was a signal that were sent out to these devices, essentially implying this can be done to any device that has a lithium-ion battery in it. Or there's the other side of the argument, a different source saying that, well, this was the one that's saying it's likely the batteries, and this is the one saying, they breached their communications, potentially by selling them explosives without them knowing so. While lithium-ion batteries are commonly used in consumer electronics, they can overheat and catch on fire, even exploding violently in some cases. We've seen that as recently with, a Samsung phone controversy of these phones just blowing up. And I think it was their or not the iPad because it's Samsung, but their Pod 7 or whatever it was called kept exploding. It was a big issue. And so we know this is a real possibility. And as this Zero Hedge article points out, it is yet unclear how precisely Israeli intelligence was able to infiltrate Hezbollah's telecoms. Whether this was small bombs that were placed in the pagers themselves, or possibly the result of some kind of large-scale cyber hack, but what is becoming clear is that they were remotely detonated. A Hezbollah official was cited anonymously in Reuters, calling the incident the biggest security breach that the group has ever faced since the start of this nearly year-long conflict with Israel. Groups like Hezbollah often use low-tech devices to communicate with each other, given that cell phones are easier for intelligence services to intercept. So again, we come to this, there's two sides of the story here. There's multiple sources. We still don't know yet what the case is. It could be small bombs that were placed in there, or with potentially much larger implications, it could be the result of some kind of large-scale cyber hack. Now, I want to point you to this next tweet, and I would definitely say take this with a very large grain of salt. This person is not necessarily credible, but this is something that's going out there that I wanted to share with you. The exploding Hezbollah phones was carried out by Mossad. This is technology that I was informed about months ago by people who know Israel tech. Essentially, the Israelis can send a message to a device that instructs it to turn the battery on and off about 1 million times a second, and it causes it to overheat instantly and explode. I was told it can be used against anyone's phone on the earth at this moment. Very Black Mirror. And then this person chimes in and says, nah, traces of highly condensed C4 have already been found. So the guy says, interesting. Yeah, for sure it is. So I chimed in, saying, do you have a source for this information? He says, I was told about this months ago. So I said, no. What's your source that condensed CO4 has already been found? And this person says, Iranian Telegram. So as I said, take this with a grain of salt for what it is. But this is what's going around online. And again, the big question today is whether or not C4 was implanted beforehand, or whether or not this was some sort of hack or cybercrime. What we do know is that it was done remotely, literally at the press of a button, because thousands of these things exploded at the same time. And again, if this was some sort of cyber hack or some sort of crime in that sense, who's to say that this isn't potentially going to happen with every device that has a lithium-ion battery in it? I mean, it's absolutely crazy. But one thing people really need to remember going forward here is that things like cell phones and smartphones, which are now used by over 5 billion people, have already been highly weaponized. They're already Big Brother spying devices. They've already been purposefully made highly addictive. They've manipulated people's thoughts and ideas and opinions through social media. And in fact, as I uncovered in a declassified military document, the radiation and some of the stuff that's coming from this stuff is actually killing mankind. Let's not forget, there are right now 5.6 to 5.7 billion people right now who own and use cell phones. And as I said, I pointed this out years ago. I made this video way back in 2017 titled Wireless Warfare Exposed, Declassified Military Document Proves that Smartphones Are Killing Mankind. We've been treated like guinea pigs, and the lab results are in. Smartphones are killing us. The current number of cell phone users today is 4.7 billion. This was back in 2017. And that number has already grown by 1 billion people, folks. And I say that figure is continuously exponentially going to rise. Decades of cell phone use have now passed, with a new generation of people coming into the world who've not experienced life without these devices. In this video, Dan Dicks of Press for Truth goes over what the phone companies are telling you is safe and acceptable levels of exposure, compared to what military documents have reported on as far as back as the 1970s in terms of the clinical effects of microwaves and radio frequency radiation on human beings. Guys, before YouTube terminated my channel, this was one of my most widely viewed and viral videos. It got almost 2 million views very quickly, 1.9 million views. So I want to share this one with you today. If you have not yet seen my video titled Wireless Warfare Exposed, Declassified Military Doc Proves Smartphones Are Killing Mankind, it proves definitively that these things have already been highly weaponized and are being used against us. If you've already seen this video, well, you can stop watching now if you like, but if you haven't, I would strongly encourage you to check it out, because there's a lot of good information that's contained in here that would show you exactly how, yes, it's of grave concern right now that they may potentially have the technology to just at the press of a button, detonate these things. But as you will see, they've already been highly weaponized to be used against society, and pretty much all of us, 5.7 billion roughly, have been duped into being addicted to using these things. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, as well as all this breaking news about this wild stuff that just happened. Again, we don't know if it's C4, we don't know if it's cybercrime, but the implications are pretty darn huge. Guys, if you do appreciate my efforts to bring you this info, don't forget to check me out at subscribestar.com/pressfortruth. Again, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever is with your means is very greatly appreciated, guys. I cannot continue to do this work without the support coming directly from you, the viewers. So thank you so much to everybody who does contribute in that way. And that's all for today, guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to click the thumbs up button, share this video, and stay tuned, guys. We're going to have more video reports coming soon, God willing. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. This is Dan Dicks here, reporting for Press for Truth. It's the summer of 2017, and by now, chances are every single person watching this video has one of these either in their pocket or in their hands right now. There's also a really good chance that you are completely unaware of the effects that these devices are having on your psyche and on you physically, and that's by design. So in today's video, we're going to lay out the truth about smartphones and wireless warfare. Now, as the title of this video suggests, we're going to be looking at a declassified military document that details the effects and the clinical manifestations of microwaves and radio frequency radioactivity on human beings. But before we do, let's take a look at what our devices say today about what is acceptable and not acceptable exposure. Now, we're going to be doing this on an iPhone 6 Plus, and you can follow along at home. So what you want to do is first go into your settings, and then we're going to go into General. From there, you're going to go into About, and then we're going to scroll all the way down to Legal. Within Legal, you'll find RF exposure, and here is where they have laid out what is apparently acceptable radio frequency exposure. You'll notice that it says here that during testing, iPhone radios are set to their highest transmission levels and placed in positions that stimulate use against the head with no separation. Now, you'll also note that it says at the top of this paragraph, specific absorption rate, or SAR, refers to the rate at which the body absorbs RF frequency. Now, in the following paragraph, following the fact that they just stated that testing is often done with these devices held against the head, with no separation, it follows it by stating the following. To reduce exposure to RF energy, use a hands-free option such as the built-in speakerphone, the supplied headphones, or other similar accessories. Carry iPhones at least 5 millimeters away from your body to ensure exposure levels remain at or below the as-tested levels. And it also goes on to say here that cases with metal parts may change the RF performance of the device, including its compliance with RF exposure and guidelines in a manner that have not been tested or certified. So it seems that they are well aware of the effects that this can potentially have physically on human beings, because where do people hold these phones when they're talking? Against their head, or they're either directly right in their pocket, and when they're right here in their pocket, they're essentially right beside your genitals. If you're male, they're right beside your testicles. If you're female, they're cooking your ovaries. And in fact, the men who are responsible for the creation of these devices knew exactly what was going on, hence why men like Steve Jobs would not allow his children to use iPads or iPhones. Bill Gates is also notoriously known to keep his children at a safe distance away from using these devices. So clearly they know something that you don't. And perhaps they were privy to this report that details precisely what these frequencies do to us psychologically and physically. This is the report released by the Naval Medical Research Institute, the Bibliography of Reported Biological Phenomenon or Effects and Clinical Manifestations Attributed to Microwave and Radio Frequency Radiations. This was conducted by the Naval Medical Research Institute and the National Naval Medical Center in October 4th of 1971. A second printing with revisions was released on April 20th, 1972. And it goes on to say here that more than 2,000 references on the biological responses to radio frequency and microwave radiation published up to June of 1971 are included in this bibliography. It goes on to say here, 3 supplementary listings bring the number of citations to more than 2,300. So well over 2,000 studies, experiments, tests, reports were done on the effects of these radio frequencies and microwaves on human beings, and it was all compiled into this one report. And when we scroll down here to find out what sorts of things they were detailing were, the effects on humans psychologically and physically, this is incredibly telling. And I'm just going to scan through this quickly, and I'll include a link in the description so you can check it for yourself. But here we see a heating of the organs, heating up the whole body, your skin, your bone marrow, the genitalia, tubular degeneration of the testicles, heating of the brain and the sinuses. It goes on and on here. Alterations in the biocurrencies of the cerebral cortex, central nervous system effects. We're talking about headaches, insomnia, restlessness, automatic nervous system effects here, ranging from fatigue, structural alterations in the synapses of the vagus nerve. Psychological disorders include something they call neurasthenia, or just generally feeling bad, just a bad feeling in general. Depression, impotence, anxiety, lack of concentration, hypochondria, dizziness, hallucinations, sleeplessness, insomnia, increased irritability, decreased appetite, loss of memory, scalp sensations, increased fatigability, chest pain, tremor of the hands. It just goes on and on. We go into changes in blood and bone marrow, cholesterol and lipids changes. We see here enzyme and other biochemical changes to your proteins, toxins, fungus, virus inactivations, alterations in the rate of cell divisions. We have metabolic disorders, gastrointestinal disorders. This just goes on, and it just gets worse. Genetic and chromosomal changes. Again, I'll leave links in the description so you can check it out for yourself. Miscellaneous effects, changes in optical activity, loss of hair, brittleness of hair, sensations and buzzing, vibrations, pulsations and tickling about the head and the ears. This is just unbelievable what they've discovered way back in the 1970s. Again, I'll include a link in the description so you can check this out for yourself. So what does all this mean, and where is all this heading? Well, the current number of cell phone users in the world today is 4.7 billion, and that number is growing just as quick, if not faster, than people are being born. Well, I'd like to point you to this excellent article that was posted yesterday by Zero Hedge, which is titled, "More Lonely, Fewer Friends, Less Sex, Have Smartphones Destroyed a Generation?" And in it, they point out that there has been a massive change to teenagers and millennials in general with the advent of smartphones. There is compelling evidence that the devices we place in young people's hands are having profound effects on their lives and making them seriously unhappy. You might expect that teens spend so much time in these new spaces because it makes them happy, but most data suggests that it does not. The results could not be clearer. Teens who spend more time than average on screen activities are more likely to be unhappy, and those who spend more time than average on non-screen activities are more likely to be happy. There's not a single exception. All screen activities are linked to less happiness. It goes on to point out that today teens are less likely to date. This leads to a decline in sexual activity. Driving, a symbol of adolescent freedom, has declined. It's completely lost its appeal for teens today. The number of 8th graders who work for pay has been cut in half. It goes on to point out these charts showing how the constant presence of the internet, particularly social media, is changing the behavior and attitudes of today's teens. They are no longer hanging out with their friends. They're not in any kind of a rush to learn how to drive. There's less dating and therefore less sex or less general interactions with humans in general. They're more likely to feel lonely. They're less likely to get enough sleep. The correlations between depression and smartphone use are strong enough to suggest that more parents should be telling their kids to put down their phones. If you were going to give advice for a happy adolescence based on this survey, it would be straightforward. Put down the phone, turn off the laptop, and do something, anything, that does not involve a screen. And we have barely scratched the surface on this topic, especially when you consider the tech world's ideas for the future of cell phones, how they want to implement holograms and what's now called augmented reality, where you would use the phone, peering through it here in real life, to enhance your experience right here in reality. And what's even scarier is that people born after 1995 don't even know what life is like without these devices. They've been completely surrounded by them their entire lives. And the unfortunate reality is it's become extremely difficult to rid yourself of RF exposure in today's world. My livelihood and income revolves around social media and devices such as these, just like millions and millions of other people out there. But just like it's a good idea to go on a diet, or to maybe go on a bit of a detox if you've been binging on unhealthy food and drink, it's equally important to have an electronic detox, even just for a few days, to remove yourself completely from all electronic devices. Think you can go 2 days without looking at your phone or a computer or a screen of any kind? Give it a try, and I think you'll be surprised at how good you feel. Not to mention, it may dawn on you just how addicted you've become to these smartphones, which are really, in the long run, just dumbing us down. So I'd encourage you to try the 2-day electronic detox challenge and let me know how it went. And of course, this channel is only made possible through your patronage at patreon.com/pressfortruth, where you can contribute a monthly pledge. Or if you prefer, you can contribute directly to PFT at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned, my friends, because we've got a lot more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth.